Welcome to the deep dive. We take a whole stack of sources, scientific papers, personal observations, all sorts of things, and we really try to pull out the most important bits of insight. Today, we're diving deep into the really astonishing story of Three-Eye Atlas. And this isn't just, another interstellar visitor passing through. It seems to be an object sending deliberate messages timed with ancient events. It raises some really profound questions about its purpose. So our mission here is to unravel the latest on Three-Eye Atlas, connect some of those dots across the different sources we've looked at, and, well, help you get properly informed on this truly unique enigma. So let's just start unpacking this. What do we actually know about Three-Eye Atlas? Just the basics first.
Well, one of the most striking things right now is the complete blackout on photography. Since about July 21st, so 3 weeks now, no new images released publicly.
That's interesting in itself.
It is, and despite that, we know it's incredibly close, relatively speaking, of course. We're talking less than 22 minutes away by radio signal, one way.
22 minutes. Okay.
Yeah, and initially you had Dr. Avi Loeb, the Harvard physicist. He theorized its size was maybe 20 kilometers. That's about 12.5 miles.
Wow, that's huge.
It is, and he speculated it might even be, deploying smaller spacecraft or probes.
Right, like a mothership concept almost. But I know some other physicists suggested it might be smaller.
Yeah, it's true. There are other estimates. Loeb's was sort of the initial larger figure.
So given that we can't see new pictures, what has your own visual analysis of the older imagery shown? You mentioned looking beyond the nucleus.
Exactly. Well, Loeb's initial focus was more on that central bright spot, the nucleus, using image enhancement techniques, really pushing the data. I found what looks like, real structure. Intricate geometries extending way beyond that core.
Geometries, like patterns.
Yes, polygonal shapes, almost like scaffolding, extending outwards. It suggests something far more complex than just a simple rock nucleus with a fuzzy coma.
Okay, that's fascinating. But here's where it gets, really interesting for me. How is communication even possible? I mean, sending a signal out there.
Well, this is where Loeb's own paper is quite revealing. He states that in clean space, you actually don't even need 1 watt of power to send it a message.
1 watt, that's nothing.
Exactly. He says communication is incredibly easy.
Okay.
And that opens the door to, techniques like those Jimmy Blanchett uses with amateur band radios, baofangs. And interestingly, this kind of echoes Nikola Tesla's experiments back in the late 1800s, Colorado Springs. He sent signals out into the inner solar system and reported getting back these Morse code-like responses.
Wow. Okay, so you've tried this based on that principle.
I have, yeah. Pointed an antenna, less than 1 watt, just like Loeb suggested was possible. And I sent a series of tones. These tones corresponded to the orbital periods of planets in my hyperdimensional model.
Your hyperdimensional model, right? Can you just briefly explain that?
It's a theoretical framework suggesting, additional unseen dimensions and potentially objects within them influencing our reality. So I used Earth's period, 365.256 days, Mars at 686.98 days, and then 2 hypothetical planets for my model, which I number 591 and 956.
Okay. And why 956 specifically?
Because 956 is a number that, in my interpretation of earlier patterns and data related to Three-Eye Atlas, it seemed like the object itself had already sort of sent us. It was a recurring figure.
Right. So you send these tones, and what happened?
The response, as I interpret it, was, pretty mind-blowing. The radio chirped back. It sounded like Morse code.
Morse code, seriously.
That's what it sounded like. And when I measured the frequencies of those chirps, the math yielded the number 259.83.
Okay, 259.83. What does that number mean in your sequence?
In my model, that number is 99% accurate for the next planet in the sequence, which I call powers 253.
99%. So a direct relevant response.
That's how I see it.
Yeah.
Yes. An intelligent response. And here's the kicker, the timing. Given the 20-minute light travel time each way, the response seemed to come back much, much faster than that 40-minute round trip.
So faster than light. How is that possible?
That's the implication, suggesting maybe a different mode of communication entirely, not conventional radio waves constrained by light speed, perhaps something related to the hyperdimensional aspect.
And you mentioned another method, too, something with trees.
Yes, that was even more unconventional. I call it a tree antenna network.
Yeah.
Basically, used a stereo amplifier, ran wires down a hill to 3 big trees that had coils wrapped around them, sending out the same tones.
Okay.
And the response is, they weren't auditory through the radio. They were perceived directly in my consciousness.
In your consciousness.
Yeah, it felt almost like a bioelectric psychic radio, if you will. A direct, maybe energetic connection.
Quite something else.
Yeah.
Okay, so with these unusual methods and responses, why are numbers and math, like the golden ratio you mentioned, so central to understanding all this?
Well, I think mathematics is the universal language, isn't it? It cuts across cultures, units. You measure light speed in metric or miles per second. The frequency is the same. Ratios, proportions, they're constant.
Right.
And the golden ratio specifically, it's like pi. It's this mathematically proven harmony, an ever-expanding formula that gets more precise. In my work, when calculations hit like 97, 98% accuracy using it, I consider that spot on. It signals a meaningful connection.
And you found this golden ratio connection with 3I Atlas.
Yes, remarkably so. If you look at the perihelion timings, that's the closest point to the sun for Oumuamua, 2I Borisov, and 3I Atlas.
Huh.
The ratio between those timings in my analysis is precisely 1 to the golden ratio squared.
Wow, okay.
And then there's 3I Atlas's rotation period. Loeb's paper states 16.15 to 16.1 hours.
Uh-huh.
That translates to 969.9 minutes.
969.
Now, think about ancient texts. Methuselah, oldest man in the Bible, lived 969 years.
Okay.
His father, Enoch, lived 365 years. Earth's orbital period, right?
Right.
The ratio of 365 to 969 also falls, in my calculations, within 1 to the golden ratio squared.
So you're saying the rotation period itself is speaking this mathematical language?
It strongly suggests it, yes.
Yeah.
It's like it's speaking in this golden ratio code. And that 969 number, it points directly with 98.65% accuracy to my hyperdimensional planet number 905.6.
That's quite a convergence of numbers.
Yeah.
And you mentioned Congresswoman Luna talking about hyperdimensional beings.
Yes. She did mention hyperdimensional beings and hyperdimensional planets in hearings, which is interesting context. It hints that maybe these UAPs, these UFOs, aren't just coming from across space, but maybe from, well, another dimensional space.
Okay, so bringing it back to that number you received, the 259.83, how does that fit the golden ratio pattern?
Right. If you take that number, 259.83, and repeatedly divide it by the golden ratio, it leads you straight back to Earth's orbital period, 365.256 days.
How accurately?
With 99.747% accuracy. So, to me, that confirms the message. 3I Atlas is communicating intelligently using this mathematical language, and it signals it's on the way to Earth, or at least has Earth in its calculated trajectory.
You're laying out these really intricate mathematical patterns. How do you differentiate between, say, significant correlations and what could just be coincidence, especially with so much data out there?
That's absolutely a fair question. For me, it's about the density and the consistency. It's not just 1 or 2 alignments. It's the golden ratio, other constants popping up again and again, linking celestial mechanics, ancient texts, the object's own physical properties like rotation, and even these communication attempts.
Right.
When you see these patterns converging with such high accuracy across multiple, seemingly unrelated domains, that, in my framework, pushes it beyond coincidence. It points towards, well, a deliberate design. A message.
Which leads to the idea of an itinerary. Does it seem like 3I Atlas is following a planned schedule, hitting specific points at specific times?
Based on my analysis of the orbital data and these alignments, yes, it certainly appears that way. For instance, Avi Loeb's original data, before it was revised, actually showed 3I Atlas sort of flatlining or stalling near Earth.
Stalling near Earth.
Yeah, from around December 2nd or 3rd through to December 25th. Then it showed a sharp departure on December 26th.
Yeah, Christmas Day.
Exactly. Now, Loeb later changed that data, smoothed it out, and there was speculation, maybe it was changed to avoid a Christmas comet story or any kind of sensitive religious angle.
Interesting. So what are the upcoming points in this apparent itinerary?
Well, the alignments I've tracked are, to me, incredibly precise and symbolically potent. Coming up very soon, August 21st to 25th, it's calculated across the orbit of the asteroid Ceres.
Ceres, in the asteroid belt.
Right. And Ceres itself fits into the golden ratio harmony, in my calculations. Plus, mythologically, it's linked to ancient stories of a great war in the heavens, Marduk and Tiamat, that kind of thing. Astrologically, this timing also aligns with the shift from Leo into Virgo.
Okay. What's next?
The closest physical planet encounter is Mars, around October 2nd to 3rd.
And that timing?
This year, that coincides with Yom Kippur. It's also traditionally associated with Moses receiving the 10 Commandments on Mount Sinai.
Wow.
And Mars, of course, is the planet of war. In some ancient texts, it was Marduk's home base. So the timing, to me, implies a kind of signal of return of maybe a powerful ancient entity.
A return. Okay, keep going.
Looking further ahead, March 16th, 2026, that's its closest pass to Jupiter.
Jupiter, the giant.
And that date aligns with Islam's Night of Power, when the Quran was said to be delivered to Muhammad by Archangel Gabriel.
The statistical chances of that must be tiny.
Exactly. Given Jupiter's huge orbit, hitting such a specific, significant date seems incredibly unlikely to be random chance, in my view. And Jupiter, chief god, Zeus, Amun-Ra, it feels like a power move. Maybe it's even attracted to one of Jupiter's 95 moons.
95 moons, right?
Then, on its way out, it crosses Saturn's orbit, July 19th, 2026.
Significant.
That aligns with the heliacal rising of Sirius, the ancient Egyptian New Year. It's also Mary Magdalene's feast day, links to the Apollo mission timing, and even one of the Washington, D.C. UFO flaps back in the 50s.
A lot converging on that date.
Seems so. Then further out, Uranus crossing, May 24th, 2027. That lines up with Buddha's birthday and the window for Jesus' Ascension Day on lunar calendars.
Okay.
And finally, Neptune crossing, April 12th, 2028, which aligns with Orthodox Easter Sunday.
So you're mapping its path against major religious and mythological dates across cultures and millennia?
Precisely.
From a, let's say, mainstream scientific view, how are correlations like that usually seen? Is there an astronomical explanation, or is this significance really tied to your specific interpretation?
Well, from a purely mainstream astronomy perspective, yeah, these kinds of historical or mythological alignments would generally be dismissed as coincidence. The focus is purely on gravity, orbits, predictable mechanics.
Oh.
But my interpretation is different. It's the sheer number and the precision of these specific culturally significant alignments, especially when you weave in the mathematical patterns like the golden ratio I mentioned. To me, that combination moves it way beyond random chance. It strongly suggests, again, that deliberate design. What I see is proof of intelligence, an intentional mathematical message.
And maybe aimed at, as you said, reestablishing influence.
That's one possibility, yes. Like announcing its presence or return in a way that resonates with deep human history and belief systems.
What's also fascinating is how you mentioned the appearance of 3i Atlas itself might be part of the message. You enhanced those blurry images.
Yes, the initial good color image we got from Hawaii, it seemed to show almost purposefully extremely low contrast, like he was trying to hide something.
Intentional concealment.
It felt that way.
Yeah.
Using a Nikon editor, pushing the levels, things started to emerge. Polygonal geometry, sort of honeycomb structures in the outer band.
Bands of color.
Red and blue bands, yeah. But weirdly, Loeb found no spectral lines for typical chemistry that would cause those colors. So their origin is still a mystery.
Okay, but the really startling discovery
Was the nucleus itself. Once enhanced, that central area, which is huge, remember, at least 7 miles across, maybe 12, according to Loeb, it looks remarkably like, well, what I interpret as the Eye of Horus, or a Cyclops eye.
An eye.
A giant eye structure, and it almost looks like it's holographically projecting these geometric structures out around itself.
Wow. Okay. And you mentioned something black within it.
Yes, inside that eye shape, there's this black envelope, a region of just black nothingness that shows very low refractivity. Light doesn't seem to bounce off it much.
So stealth or something else.
Could be stealth tech, or maybe a massive protective membrane of some kind. It makes me wonder if the actual craft is far, far bigger than it even appears. Potentially something like the cubic city of God prophesied in the Bible. That's a concept I'm exploring based on the scale and geometry.
And Hubble images confirm some of this structure.
The Hubble black and white images, yes, they show even clearer cage-like structures, polygonal, hexagonal, pentagonal shapes. Very reminiscent of descriptions of Ezekiel's wheels, wheels within wheels.
Ezekiel's wheels. And the rotation speed you mentioned earlier, 16 hours or so.
Right, 16.15 to 16.16 hours. That specific rotation speed, well, it could quite plausibly be to create artificial gravity inside.
Artificial gravity.
Which would imply?
It implies there are beings inside that have weight, that need gravity. It suggests it's not just some automated AI probe. It could be housing, well, a freaking city, like you said.
A city inside an eye-shaped craft talking in golden ratios.
Right.
Okay, let's try to connect this to the bigger picture then. If we accept these interpretations, where might this highly intelligent craft have come from, and what's its goal?
Well, Avi Loeb has consistently put forward the hypothesis that 3i Atlas, like Oumuamua before it, is likely an alien spacecraft or probe, collecting data perhaps.
Right, the probe idea. But your math pointed somewhere else.
Nibiru.
Yes. My research uncovered what I see as a groundbreaking mathematical link. If you take my hyperdimensional planet number 591 and you repeatedly multiply it by the golden ratio, you arrive at an orbital period of roughly 3,600 years.
3,600 years, which is?
Which is consistent with Zecharia Sitchin's proposed orbit for Nibiru, that theoretical planet, some believe, swings through our solar system on a very long cycle.
The Anunnaki connection.
Exactly. And there's an even more precise calculation. If you take 3I Atlas's exact rotation period, 969.6 minutes,
Yeah.
and you multiply that repeatedly by the golden ratio, it also yields an orbit, 300 and 620 years.
Which is how close to Sitchin's 3600?
It's 99.424% accurate.
Wow.
So in my model, this mathematical resonance strongly suggests 3I Atlas came from Nibiru, implying that Anunnaki connection.
So if it came from Nibiru, potentially, and it's hitting all these symbolic points on significant dates, could it be like a control system reasserting itself, like ancient rulers showing up to demonstrate their divine right, but using orbital mechanics and mathematics?
That's certainly one way to interpret the pattern, yes. A reestablishment of presence or influence, signaled through these deeply resonant mathematical and temporal alignments.
So for our listeners who are tracking this, what are the absolute key dates to watch in the near future, and how are you keeping tabs on it?
Definitely keep an eye on August 21st to 25th. That's the Ceres crossing, coinciding with the shift into Virgo. And then October 1st to 3rd, that's the Mars encounter, coinciding with Yom Kippur this year and the move into Scorpio. Those seem particularly significant based on the patterns.
Okay.
As for monitoring, I'm continuing to use my tree antenna networks, sending out those radio messages, listening for responses.
Yeah.
And both myself and Avi Loeb, I believe, are watching closely for any uptick in unusual aerial phenomena, UFO activity.
Yeah.
Because 3I Atlas isn't just passing through quickly. It's projected to be in our inner solar system for at least 2 more years.
2 more years. Okay, so this really brings us to the core question, doesn't it? Will 3I Atlas just pass by, leaving this trail of mathematical, maybe historical breadcrumbs for us to puzzle over? Or will it physically do something? It makes you really consider the implications, doesn't it? An object that seems to speak in this universal language, math, aligns its path with ancient sacred dates. Looks like a giant eye. What is it signaling about intelligence, about our own ancient history, maybe even our place in the cosmos? Are these patterns just incredible coincidences in the grand celestial clockwork? Or are we potentially witnessing a deliberate, millennia-spanning message unfold right now? And if it is a message, what's the takeaway for us? That's something to really mull over.